You are standing on a battlefield, and you make a choice. Unfortunately, it is just you and the brown-haired man in front of you. Vio! You shout. It's confident and threatening, the opposite of the churning waves of nausea in your stomach. You decide to let go. It has been years since the last time he appeared. The calculated close calls enough to remind you he was still alive, still out there, still calling you home. You don't know why, but you expected his hair to be longer. There's a hand reaching out in your mind, asking if he's growing it out again, and he says it's not as long as he likes. Short hair suits him better, you think. Lighthouses come to life around you, and you begin to stalk forward. Normally, you'd be above it all, calling the shots. But the total annihilation of your squadron means you have to finish it here yourself. Deep in your heart, you knew it would always be you to end his climb. You were the one holding him back after all, slowing him down, confusing him by giving him the option of a future he didn't think he could have with you. At least, that's what he said when he left, and you are not one to disappoint. He moves his head to glance at the 3 red eyes on your jacket, watching you approach. 2 predators waiting to grasp the one shot at the upper hand. You eventually stand in front of him, and he appears to you like every version of himself at once. The boy you love, the Fug Slayer, the scared child You furrow your brows in confusion as you notice the fear permeating his Shinsu. He is essentially a god now, devastating entire floors without stepping more than 2 feet out of his warship. You would know. The folder on him in your lighthouse with every news clipping and picture you could find to track his movements is not really a folder, but a whole filing cabinet. You haven't physically seen him in centuries, yet you manage to find him everywhere you go. There is a pulsing tension in the air, palpable on your palms, and you take a single step. 1 foot back in your fighting stance. His face crumbles, but you keep your mask on. The whole charade reminds you of when he took everything you were and vanished. Fug had given him an ultimatum. He had to pick between going with Fug so you could keep your life or staying human with you. To you, it was easy. Didn't you say years ago? Isn't it better being human? You thought he believed you, trusted you to help him stay sane. But you were wrong. You were so wrong. When he came to the room you shared to tell you he did not choose you, he wept, and you sat unmoving on the bed. You stayed stoic and refused to turn his way because anything more and you would crack, and he would know how pathetic you really were. On impulse, you stood and started forming an ice spear in your hand. He was shocked, eyes wide, eyes distressed, although you didn't know why he was acting that way. He was leaving you, and you had to protect what little of your heart was left. Get out, you growled. Jinsung retrieved his things later. He told you to get your act together and you scoffed. You weren't the one who ran away. Jinsung pointed out you never asked him to stay. For years you wandered the tower. Staying with the team proved to be unbearable without him at your side, and you moved through each floor like a hurricane. You destroyed anything in your way, yourself in the process, until Maria found you drowning on the 113th floor. She offered you a chance to climb with more power than ever before, and to be at her side like when you were younger, like you wanted. At this point you were numb, but you were so tired of being alone you took her hand one more time. She lied. You weren't surprised. Instead of by her side, you ended up in Jihad's army and quickly rose through the ranks since taking orders was never your specialty. The king himself made you a squadron commander. You assumed it was to bait him into seeking you out, but you knew he would never come find you, not when your life was on the line. He was bullheaded and impulsive, sort of gullible and trusting to a fault. He was kind, loyal, good, so many things, but he wasn't stupid. He was not a fish to be fooled into pursuing the wormed lure. So here you both are before one another, two different people bent into impossible shapes to fit the roles fate had in store. He opens his mouth, and you lunge. You have no interest in hearing his voice, preferring to preserve the remnants of him you have rather than whatever could be written over by the current version. He dodges easily, your knife meeting thin air. You spin out of the way of a bang, and you're on a balcony. The full moon has never been closer, and it makes his eyes glitter brighter than the North Star. Tugging your hand to whirl back to him, his hands land on your hips, and the heat radiating from them oozes into your blood, thawing the ice in your veins. The grip on your hips tighten, and he guides your bodies to sway, rhythmless tides without music to pilot him. The night is cold, but your night is warm, and you wrap your arms around his neck. You gasp when a palm strike to your chest sends you tumbling out of your reverie onto the ground. The hit wasn't enough to leave as much as a bruise. He remains on the fence, only using force to knock you away from him. It almost feels like when you two sparred, him blocking, and you still having to go all out to keep up. You chased usefulness with the fervor of a dead man walking, praying for absolution. And you were. You asked for him to save you, and he left you begging at the altar. Fight back! Your memory screams alongside you, except there's no laughter or joy in the closeness this time because your knife is real. It's hungry, itching to bury itself deep in the center of a sturdy chest. He huffs and kicks out at your hip, the one he knows you hurt severely enough the firefish couldn't heal you properly. You knew he was fast, but the goddamn Shinsu at his beck and call made his movements practically invisible. A lighthouse shield lessens the impact, but even with it, there was barely any power behind his attack. Anger swells inside you. You need him to fight back. You need him to try. To give you a reason for this because you know he will never hurt you. So for you to be advancing, glancing a pitiful punch with your right arm, it is one more betrayal to him. You don't stop. You can't. This isn't for Jihad or Maria, not the Kun family or whatever god is at the top of the tower. You switch the glinting dagger to your left hand. This is a hopeless nightmare and you are fighting to wake up. The exchanges grow more frantic, blow after blow. Each touch of his skin on yours makes your body thrum with energy. Your pacing increases with every zap and you become a live wire. Sweat builds on your forehead, but he doesn't miss a beat. Breath even as he meets your aggressiveness with the grace fitting of his name. Slowly, a condensed lighthouse floats behind him. When he rotates to knock your weapon, you step and teleport. In an instant, you are behind him, and he whips around, throwing his first offensive move of the fight. It's off balance, so you kick his hesitant arm out of the way, slamming your foot down in finality. You snatch his deflected hand and pull him towards you. A field of gold. His eyes are too big and scared on his face suddenly. Red vest, gray scarf. Where did you get the black march? Your left hand slams through the illusion. The knife sinks further than you think it will, the handle meeting the black of his robes. He is surprised, and when he stumbles back, you follow, knuckles locked in a vice grip on the hilt. What have you done? You fall together, but it wasn't supposed to be like this. His knees falter and he trips backwards to the ground. Your right hand lands on his shoulder, and you end up straddling him. It was supposed to be you two. Together. At the top. Even like this. Even with your blade tearing at his heart, he looks at you like you are the sun, and the moon, and the stars, the whole sky. A shaky hand runs its way through the length of your blue hair, from the roots behind your ear to the tips just above the small of your back. Beautiful, he says. What have you done? Tears are dripping onto his face, golden eyes warm, so bright. Not enough of either of those things anymore. They are dimming, and he smiles anyway. Why is he smiling? You can't stop crying, twisting the knife deeper to try and hurry it up. How is he still alive? You are desperate for him to stop breathing already. You can't take it. Just die! 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 Ah, Carol, he gurgles. Ah, Carol, why? You wrench your wrist again, ripping different kinds of pain out of both of you. But he nods, understanding not now, not ever again. He tries to touch your face and you scrunch your eyes shut. I'm so sorry, Bob. Nearly bursts from your lips when his fingertips trace them in a trail of feather-light brushes. Your heart is shattering over and over in your chest, and you imagine having a knife plunged into it by the person you love would feel the same. It's okay. I know. I know. He soothes. Typical. You almost give him a heartbroken smile at how he never changes, but your mouth wobbles into a sob. He stares at you with a mix of slurring emotions until his face finally goes slack, and you blink, and blink again as many times as you need to clear some of the wetness from your eyes. You don't know how much time has passed before you eventually release your death grip on the knife. Pushing out a shuddering breath, you stand. The sun sets on the horizon. Its light feels frigid against your face, but instead of leaving, you stare blankly across the scene. Blood stained on your hands, hair rippling behind you, a slain god at your feet. Inhale. You close your eyes. Exhale. You look up. You are standing on a battlefield, and you make a choice. Thankfully, it is just you and the brown-haired man in front of you. Bomb! You yell. It's fragile and hopeful, the same as the fluttering butterflies breaking through your stomach. You decide to come home.